بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيد المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه إلى يوم الدين. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل وألهمنا رشدنا يا رب العالمين. Alhamdulillah. In our lessons on Imam al-Birgivi's At-Tariqa al-Muhammadiyya, we have reached the 48th of the blameworthy traits of the heart. And this blameworthy trait is fitna. And fitna here is referring to causing turmoil, dissension, or confusion. The root meaning of fitna comes from a grave test, right? Fitna comes from a grave test, right? We can call it a grave test because fitna is something that is harmful, that is testing. Now, classically in the Arabic language, a fitna would be fatana shay, right? Is to test it intensely, right? So you can do it to gold, right? People would falsely claim things were gold. So the fitna would be an intense test. Do most things pass that test? No. Most things wouldn't be gold, right? Right, so it would be a test that is intense and most people would fail it, right? So that is the original sense of the word. It's an intense test that most people would fail, right? But the test itself isn't bad in the original usage of the term. And the reason we need to start from the original usage of the term for starting here, because there are things that are referred to in the Quran and the Sunnah as fitna, right? So it's not that that thing is bad, but this is something that is intensely testing. And beware, for most people may fail in this test, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, our wealth and our families are a fitna. Does it mean it's bad? Does it mean that you read the verse and say, oh, my family is bad, leave my family? No. You read that your wealth is a fitna. Does it mean that your wealth is bad, give it away? Of course not, right? It is. So fitna in this sense this is a matter that is intensely testing. And beware, because most people are likely to fail in it. But the thing itself is not bad, right? The reason this is important and why language matters, right? And our religion is based on the most beautiful, richest, deepest, clearest, yet most nuanced language, which is Arabic. Which is why it's the language of the people of paradise. So you have to be careful. It's not a superficial language, right? So some people get worried because they say fitna. Okay, so there's hadith. So some people say, and now there's movements in some part of the world, but some of it arises. There are people who are so literalist, they make things very superficial. When you lose depth, you lose perspective, you leave that shallow thing ugly. I say, if you have a pool, it's full of water. People jump into the pool. They enjoy themselves. What do? You drain the pool? People jump in the pool, they break their legs. Say, no, it's unsafe to jump in pools because they don't have water. No. Uncle Jamil just drained the water, right? So, some places, there's movements that, women are not fitna. You have to be careful of these movements in the Muslim world. And a lot of them, you just follow the money. Where are they coming from? Right? There's external harm that affects the ummah and internal folly. Internal folly. That's how harm always befalls. Any polity, harm from outside and from the inside. Why is that significant? The Prophet ﷺ says, for example, I have left no fitna after me for the men of my ummah like women. Does that mean that women are evil, devious, this and that? No, it just means that just look at reality. What harms, that no. Men. So is the test bad? Is the thing that is testing bad? No, because if the thing is that is testing bad, then the Quran and Sunnah would entail give up your family, give up your wealth, get rid of your children, because all of them are fitna. But this is a test you're accountable for, and many, if not most, will fail in the test. The test itself is not. These are blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other thing, of course, in the case of, the things I mentioned about, that the opposite is also true. Right? The opposite is also true. That for women, there's few tests as great as men. So what is the call? Be careful when it comes to maintaining your modesty, your dignity, and your restraint with respect to the opposite sex. One at the level of desire, and the other in terms of be careful in fulfilling the rights of the opposite sex in the context of marriage and so on. So this is an important context to give. But here, Imam al-Birgivi rahimahullah ta'ala looks at fitna in a particular sense, which is causing confusion and turmoil, right? Causing confusion and turmoil. So fitna, right? There's a beautiful article by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect and preserve him, called, what's it called? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but fitna really hurts. Is that I don't know why that sticks to me as a title, but is that the title? Yeah, someone just Google it. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but fitna really hurts, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. And now in general, now there's fitnas that affect society. Right? The end of time when confusion and chaos spreads, right? The sunnah with fitna is to keep away. And the Prophet ﷺ told us about the times of fitna, right? What? Yeah. So the title, if you look Sticks and Stones, Hamza Yusuf, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, but you'll find it, inshallah. Excellent article. Now, the adab with fitna, if stirred, is keep away. Whatever fitna it is, right? People are fighting, you keep away. Right? There's religious argument taking place, keep away. Now, these kinds of things garner a lot of views. I looked up, I'm on a funny diet these days. I looked up Hyderabadi biryani, and I sometimes see some Islamic videos. So now I get sectarian videos from Hyderabad. Just curious, because I'm not Hyderabadi, but they have a very interesting way of speaking Urdu. I have family members who don't consider that to be Urdu. Now, I'm not interested in the argument, but so the adab with anything where there's fitna, fighting, confusion, commotion, is keep away. Now, curiosity killed the cat. Fitna hurts the believer. Engaging in fitna, but also drawing close to it. Right? The Prophet ﷺ warned about fitna, and then he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the one who stands still during fitna is better than the one who walks to it. And the one who sits is better than the one who stands, and the one who lies down is better than the one who's sitting. Meaning the further you can be from fitna, the safer you are. Like, don't be in the fitna, but don't walk to the fitna. Don't even stand still. Like, if you don't stand still, the one standing still is better than the one walking to it. Right? You sit down, lie down, meaning keep away. Right? Whereas the natural thing is to be curious. And then the Prophet ﷺ warned, "Man istashrafa alayha istashrafatu." The one who comes to its edge, it will cause them to fall into it. Right? There was a ludicrous, I don't know why I got it. I kept deleting it, but then both parties asked me to check, to give advice. I said, I can't. One party, I said, I can't give you advice. But the other party consulted me. So I ended up having, which is one Muslim sued the other. But till the two parties sent it to me, but one of them asked me for advice. Until then, I didn't see it. Just deleted it. Why? What does it have to do with me? Right? Has to do with me? No. Am I responsible for it? No. Right? One person accusing something else of something. Right? If there's a legal case, you take it to the courts resolve it. If you don't take it to courts, take it to adjudication. You can't take it to arbitration, take it to mediation. There's no thing in Islam called the law of the jungle. Right? There are actually rulings in our deen that if there's chaos, what do? You act with principle. Keep yourself from harm, act with principle. Even in chaos, you act with principle. Right? If you enter enemy lands, you don't cheat and deceive them. You don't take their property wrongfully. The believer is a person of principle, because we don't act because of people. We don't act because of law. We act because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So that's a very important principle. Right? And that's ruinous. Because the basis of individuals, for example, is that كل المسلم على المسلم حرام دمه ماله عرضه. Everything of a person is inviolable for the Muslim. And this applies to the Muslim here, who's inviolable is the human being. Right? Why? Because كل المسلم على المسلم حرام. Right? This is, the commentators in hadith explain, this applies in general. The Muslim is mentioned because Muslims live with Muslims generally, but everything of another is inviolable for the Muslim. That's how we translate the hadith in terms of meaning. Because you look, all the hadith commentators, they explain, this is, the specification of the Muslim there is incidental. It's not exclusionary. Right? Right? Let's say someone lives in a place where they only eat curry. Say, I need to eat some good curry today. But they just said curry because that's what they always eat. But someone says, why don't we have a burger? Say, sure. They're mentioning curry was incidental. Anyways, so here, everything of another is inviolable for their life, their property, and their honor. Right? So people are fighting about people, someone's attacking another, people, mocking them, etc. And the guiding principle here is ihris ala ma yanfa'uk. Be avid for what will benefit you. Right? It's exciting. Sometimes it's funny. I am guilty too. Because I have, my sister is married into I'm married into a Hyderabadi family. My wife's totally non-hydro. Right? She's an NHP. She's a non-hydro person. Like till we got married, she didn't even realize what being Hyderabadi actually meant. She assumed that's her slice of India. So I've shared it with I couldn't bother sharing with her. One, she doesn't follow social media in that way. Number two, because she wouldn't get the reference. She wouldn't understand the language. So I shared it with my sister because she finds, anyways. The other people, I shared it with Nadir Khan, who's an HP. He's a hydro person. But it's harmless. But to get involved in it, and astaghfirullah, I shouldn't have done that, right? But it was harmless, right? It's funny. But it's certainly better not to do. But that's even from a distance. talking about some, like whatever. Because there's some controversy happening in Hyderabad about, is it wrong to cut a cake during the Milad of the Prophet? It's a silly argument, back and forth. And they're attacking each other. I only watched the first part of the video but that kind of stuff, you just keep away from it is the best thing. Right? Once I've shared enough of, it's funny, right? You just do not receive any more, right? And algorithms, for example, online are very harmful because you follow something, now you get something else, right? There's a sect. I don't know why for a while I was getting a bunch of videos of theirs. Turns out that someone I do listen to shares a last name with someone from that sect. So I made a mistake of clicking on one video, other videos came. So I just, every time they came, not interested, right? And in that sense, it's better to watch useless things than potentially harmful religious things. It's better for you to watch foodie videos about some foodie vloggers in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and whatever other stans than to watch, because it's not harmful, right? They're eating meat. Is it halal to eat meat? Yeah, in itself. You can watch a non-Muslim eating the meat. They're not responsible. Oh, you just watch the fact that they're eating meat. Okay. It's probably a waste of time, but it's permissible. But it's less harmful to watch the permissible, but all you can say about it, that time could have been better spent, than watching something of religious harm. Just because it's religious doesn't mean it's beneficial. And many things and certain cultures, a lot of religious discourse has to do with these arguments. Right? Someone not even religious, asked me, what's your position on what certain Sahabi did at a certain battle? Why does my position firstly matter? Right? The thing happened 1400 years ago. Number two, why should I think about it? Am I going to be asked on the Day of Judgment, Faraz Rabbani, come here. What did you hold about that? No. Be avid for what benefits you. Right? These are two guiding. Be avid for what benefits you. احرص على ما ينفعك. That's principle one, number one. Principle 1, 2. من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعني. From the excellence of a person's Islam is to leave all that does not concern them. What doesn't concern you? Something is not that is not of good or benefit for you. Directly or indirectly. Directly, it benefits you directly. Indirectly, by being of benefit to another. In deen or dunya. Right? In your religious life or in your worldly life. You watch, you're thinking, I need to save on my budget. I order too much food. I'm going to start cooking at home. So you're watching some food videos to inspire to cook something at home. Okay, you got a good intention. Watching whatever stuff, that's a good intention. Or you want to pick up more Urdu for some reason. Or you have whatever decent intention. So this is how we approach that. But particularly religious, so keep away from fitna, that's one. Right? So sort of looking over, as the Prophet said, man istashrafa alayha istashrafat, whoever draws close to it, it'll drag them in. Because fitna has a magnetic effect. It's appealing. People like it because of excitement. Right? I have a friend who every once in a while gives me ridiculous advice. Said, Sheikh Faraz, I have advice for you. I said, yeah. He said, you should go into more controversial topics. I said, why? He says, remember that guy in Damascus? I said, yeah. He said, his videos get 20 to 40 times the number of views that yours do. I said, okay. I could make a counter argument that there's individual videos, music videos that have been played on YouTube more than the number of people on earth. That's not an argument for me to start singing lewd lyrics or whatever that might be going on in those videos. That's a ridiculous argument. Right? I said, why do you think he gets so many views? He said, because he goes into controversies and you tend to not to. I said, okay, good. May Allah bless him and you. Right? So, people are curious. Did you see when so-and-so came down on so-and-so? Like that kind of stuff. It's exciting, but if you pause, one, does it benefit me? No. But number two, is there harm in it? One, just fitna as a category is harmful. But then you see so-and-so is attacking Sheikh so-and-so. Like the context of Sheikh Hamza's article, for example, right? Now, if, let's say, whoever it is, made a mistake, and of course, amongst the people most likely to be attacked are people of prominence. Right? Like, for example, for a while, there's some young kids, and they're kids, really, attacking Sheikh Hamza Yusuf for all kinds of silly things. Recently, someone decided to do attacks on Imam Zayd. I didn't, alhamdulillah, did not read a single one. Why? Because it came up in my feed, it had nothing to do with me. And number two, you don't leave the certainty you have for someone else's foibles. Right? Even if, let's say someone made a mistake. You know, they have a lifetime of service. They made one mistake. Have you ever made a mistake in your life? So if someone made a mistake, is it like a big deal? No. Right? If you made a mistake, hopefully you've repented from it. Right? Would you want someone else to pick on you for it? No. Right? So give people the same space. Nobody is perfect besides the prophets. Right? So that's why one is just fitna as a category is harmful. But when it goes into, it is impinging on the right at least of one party, possibly multiple parties. Because often when you get in fitna, you think ill of one party and then you'll think ill of the other. So you harmed yourself, you harmed this party, and then you slandered that party. So one party committed a sin against the other, you fell into three sins. Entering into fitna, believing ill of this party, thinking ill of this party for something else. Right? So actually, the one who gets into fitna may end up committing more sins than the two parties involved. It's possible that two parties could be differing and they don't actually fall into sin. That's a legitimate difference. But the person who gets involved in it, it's fitna for them. So they have gone against the teachings of Allah and His Messenger for getting involved in fitna, and then for thinking ill of party A, thinking ill of party B, then the backbiting, then the slander, then the tailbearing. So the one who gets involved in fitna could end up committing far more sin than the two parties, because it's very conceivable that it's possible that one party in the fitna could actually be rewarded. Which party is rewarded in the fitna? The madhloom, right? The wronged party. They may have reward. But you have, by getting involved in the fitna, you sin more than the two parties were fighting. And this is a religious fight, even a worldly fight. Let's say an old gentleman doesn't realize they have senility. They went to try to enter a house that they thought was theirs. Is it their right to enter their house? Yes. So they genuinely believe this is my house. And they open the door, let's place, they don't lock the door. Someone else is there because the old person, the person just has some mental acuity issues, like I had in Pakistan, because I was trying to impress my aunt. So I was visiting my paternal family, and it had been after 13 years of last going to Pakistan. So I got the street number wrong. They lived on 7th East Street. I went to an 8th East Street, and they let us inside the house, the servants. So we want to visit, Mem Saab. So they just let us in. When we entered inside, there's pictures on the wall. And the house that we're going to, there would never be pictures on the wall. There's pictures of people not from our family. So we left. But it's possible that the two people are fighting. One person genuinely believes this is my house. And the person who lives there knows that this is their house. So they're fighting. One, because why are you in my house? The other is, why are you trying to enter my house? So they could legitimately be fighting. Now, if you want to get to stop the fight, whatever, that's good. But you're watching, say, look at that. Uncle's a criminal. Why? Or you go the other side, look at that, beating up an old man. Are they sinful? No, but the onlooker is getting involved, etc. Right? So this is why you have to be careful. But even getting involved in fitna is harmful. Even worse is being the party of fitna. Right? Either by stirring it or spreading it. And Imam al-Birgivi is also addressing this to scholars, right? Which is to scholars, but also in our times would apply to preachers, activists, online pundits, commentators, they call it, empty Muslim Twitter, and it sounds like empty, like the word empty, and it is empty. And if you can, personally, what I do, if anybody likes to get into religious arguments, if I have to remain friends with them, family, alhamdulillah, I don't have family members who get into religious arguments. If I have to remain friends with them, I have to, or they'd be hurt or whatever, I'll just silence them. And once in a while, I'll just check everything okay, right? Sadly, just remain. Or if it's just someone I don't know, I just unfriend them. Right? Keep, because the permissible is less harmful than religious fitna. Right? So in that sense, there's several aspects, right? Do not get involved in it, but also don't look over. Oh, just checking what's going on. Even worse is to spread it. Even worse is to spread it. There's an excellent, so we mentioned the Sheikh Hamza article, another of the great scholars of our time, Sheikh Nuh Keller, has a brilliant article, and we'll put it here as part of the description of on the video. It's called The Chattering Classes. When people chatter, don't listen. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes from the qualities of the believer, إِذَا مَرُّوا بِاللَّغْوِ, what do they do? مَرُّوا كِرَامًا. If they pass by idle speech, they pass by nobly. What's nobly? With dignity and not getting involved in it. And the laghu is مَا لَا فَائِدَةَ فِيهِ, is people engage in that which has no benefit, and from which has no benefit, but rather harm is actually worse. Right? That's why they say that it's less harmful for you in life to hang out with corrupt worldly people than ignorant religious people. Because corrupt worldly people, if you hang out with them, they're not committing sins all the time. Right? Most people don't just have the energy to commit sin all the time. Right? But you just, but you'll be on your guard. Right? You have some non-practicing family members, whatever, you spend time with them, you'll be on guard. You know your limits, so you engage with them in the permissive. You go have lunch with them, you have dinner with them, you socialize with them in certain limits. Other things you won't engage in. Right? But you're less likely to be harmed. But the ignorant religious, and the ignorant is not the one who lacks knowledge. The ignorant, the jahil, is the ignorant person is the one who is unprincipled. Right? The ignorant person is the unprincipled person. Now, we don't judge people, right? Maybe this is their weakness. We're not there to judge them, but we have to be careful to stay away from it, right? It's the sunnah of religious guidance is that one have in general, unless you're a student of knowledge, is to have a moderate, purposeful diet of religious guidance. That's why, and the hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari, that after the time of the Prophet ﷺ, In Kitab al-Ilm, in the book of knowledge, after the passing of the Prophet ﷺ, people came to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, may Allah be well pleased with him, asking him to teach them daily. And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was known as أعلم الصحابة بعد الخلفاء, the most learned of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ after the Khulafa. And it's said about Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said that I know every verse of the Quran when it was revealed and why it was revealed and what it was revealed regarding and how it is to be understood and so on. Said, and if I knew anyone under the sky who knows anything more than me about any verse of the Quran, I would tie my camel caravan, prepare my caravan and travel to him, to them. Radiallahu ta'ala. He refused. So he said, teach us, every other day, 3 times a week. He said, no, I'll teach you. He said, twice a week. He said, no, I'll teach you once a week. Because هكذا كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يفعل. That's what the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم used to do. Right? And that's the sunnah of the many sunnah of learning. Make it purposeful. Why? Because what's the purpose of religious knowledge? The purpose of religious knowledge is guidance. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Right? Seeking knowledge or seeking religion. Why else are you clicking? You want entertainment? There's a lot of things, a lot more exciting in life of the halal than ilm. Right? If you want entertainment, watch tourism videos. Right? It doesn't have to be a religious thing. I click on videos. No. Develop a fascination with technology. It's safer for you than just randomly clicking religious videos. Because you're broke anyways, you're not going to buy the expensive tech. Right? But it's safer for you to waste your time in the mubah than to waste your time in things that the likelihood in it is of harm. Your religious diet should be merciful, so it should be moderate, purposeful, and focused on al-ilmun nafi', beneficial knowledge. Right? Beneficial knowledge answers the question, ihdina as-sirata, guide us to the straight path. That where are you in life? How do I pursue the path of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That's the purpose of seeking knowledge of religion. If you want to seek knowledge for curiosity purpose, don't. Walk away. Go grab a glass of water or go eat some food. Safer for you. Don't overeat. If you've already eaten, you have something else, but do anything. Go for a walk. Better for you than sit clicking on random YouTube videos. And because of the fitna potential, right? And what spreads? The curious things spread. So the things that pop up on your feed they are HPVs, high potential, high HFPVs, high fitna potential videos. Right? They pop the religious things. So don't. Coming next, like on any of these things, set up your do not track, do not this, do not this. So as much as you can keep away from these algorithms, be positive. Okay, you want to watch something of religious interest daily? Don't just click around. Say, okay, these are the things. Be purposeful as a believer. Right? Be purposeful. The Prophet ﷺ, al-qasd tablughu. Remain purposeful, and you will attain. Right? Right? So that's how we approach religious teaching. You see something curious? What should it do? So that's interesting. So, okay. Ask yourself, is there some beneficial series of religious knowledge or guidance that I would benefit from where I am? That's how we pursue it. You see, you see a video pop up, only a fool Like, do you go buy the first thing you see in an ad? Maybe, but that's not smart way of shopping, right? If you're like me, like I'm ad prone. Like I've bought some embarrassing things just because ads pop up. So I keep ad blockers on carefully, because when I turn them on, I end up buying things that I didn't know why I bought it. I had ad blockers off. I bought this pajama set. My mama started, she's restraining her laugh. I said, why? Because it's haram to wear. I thought there was, because it looked like it's light cotton, but it was so light that it's see-through. You can't even wear it at home. Like, so, right? Felt foolish, right? So what do? Right? Be purposeful. Even if something pops up, say, okay, I should have, and you feel an urge, I want to do something religious, do it purposefully. Right? You have knowledge, which is structured learning, or guidance, something that inspires you, etc. If you're not clear, because sometimes you already know, I have these books to read, there's a number of series that I intended, there's courses on seeker's guidance, there's these videos and there's so many places of sure religious knowledge. Alhamdulillah, now we have so many, go to Zaytuna College, they have excellent, reliable, beneficial knowledge. Cambridge Muslim College, the major scholars, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, Imam Zaid Shakir, Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad, Dr. Omar Farouk Abdullah, Sheikh Nuh Keller. Like in the English language, you have, in English, so many reliable scholars and reliable female scholars, right? Dr. Tamara Gray and, so many others. Sheikh Zainab Ansari, etc. So many people. So find something, and that will build you as well. Also, it will keep you from harm. That's in terms of falling into it. What Imam al-Birgivi tells us also, do not be one spreading fitna. And this is particular call to people of knowledge, or the people who talk about knowledge. And one of the things in that is, do not be a commentator. Do not be a commentator. Right? Do not be a commentator. There's no rewarded commentary, especially religious, but even political. Like, for you to sit down and say, what I believe is this is what's going to happen in Ukraine. Have you seen the future? No. Does this benefit either party? No. Does it benefit you? No. Right? It's actually foolish. Right? A lot of news is foolish. Right? And you ask someone, actually, do you know why what's going on in Ukraine is happening on this side or that side? No clue. But you're following the whole news for days. Right? الحكيم ينظر إلى حقائق الأشياء ومآلها. The wise look at the realities of things and their outcomes. Right? That's how we approach things. But also, often people enter that, people need to know. No, people need to benefit. Right? So don't, number one, Imam Ghazali at the end of Ayyuha al-Walad, just taught beautifully last term by Sheikh Abdullah Misra, his, what's last term, right? Towards the end, he gives advice. And one of the advices he gives is that avoid being a preacher, right? Right? Or a storyteller. Storytellers lie deliberately or unconsciously, and preachers just seek attention. Preachers seek attention. And guess what? See all these people like who are, I've got my YouTube channel, I'm making a series on this. Why? For attention. But the focus becomes on maximizing attention rather than maximizing benefit. That's always been the case. Always been the case. When Sayyidina Ali entered Kufa, what did he do? He cleared out all the storytellers from the masajid. Kufa or Basra? I forget which city. When you enter one of the cities in Iraq, he kicked out. But then he ran. The thing might be because he ran into Hassan al-Basri and he tested him. And he said, you can continue preaching. Or so it is said. And there's a whole genre of literature of dhammul qusas, of the blameworthiness of the qusas. One of the best of them is by Imam Abu al-Faraj, Abdurrahman ibn al-Jawzi, rahimahullah ta'ala. So, and like preachers and storytellers, commentators says, oh, these days, this sheikh, like, ihris ala ma yanfa. Be avid for what benefits. That's the criteria. What will benefit? Number one. Number two, the basis of what is beneficial religious talk in any way is hidayah, is guidance. Ilmu ma yuqarribu ila Allah. Knowledge that helps you draw closer to Allah, directly or indirectly. It's related to increasing of faith or knowledge of religious practice, how to make it sound, proper, sincere, in accordance with the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, as soundly understood by Islamic scholarship. Matters of the heart, matters of conduct, matters of character, matters of adab, right? Or the things that inspire one to these, but soundly, right? Soundly, of the life of the prophets, the life of the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, stories of the companions, the righteous, etc., from sound, reliable sources. That's knowledge. It's always been the same, right? Also, other things are from curiosity, and fitna can creep in, right? That, let's say somebody is not, let's say, okay, the history of Muslims in Ukraine. Oh, interesting. Just click on, check who's writing this. Why are they writing this? Right? Is it reliable? But it's curiosity. Is it important to your life to know about the history of the Muslims in Ukraine? No. But what we do, because curiosity takes over, we'll click. The person posting it just wants your click. Possibly, they could have good reasons to. But we always ask the test. Is it sound? Right? And the basis of soundness when it comes to religious knowledge comes from two basic criteria. What are the two criteria? Right? The basis of religious knowledge is transmission. Right? It's transmission. Right? Because this religion is preserved. This religion is preserved. No one's come figuring out religion now. Right? It's transmitted. And the basis of transmission is soundness and uprightness. Right? Soundness and uprightness. But it has to be verifiable soundness and verifiable uprightness. How do you determine the soundness of the knowledge of someone transmitting? We have to find out. The thing that they're talking about, are they qualified to talk about it? That's number one. Number two, that's not enough. Because Shaitan was qualified. Shaitan knows more than any scholar alive. But does it benefit him? No. Because he is the ultimately corrupt. فَفَسَقَ. He veered from the command of his Lord. So similarly, that is a condition consistently neglected. You are you're on Amazon. It says #1 book on Islam. Is Amazon dot whatever, depending where you live in the world, a reliable source for Islamic books? No. That doesn't mean you ignore it. So okay, that seems like an interesting. You find out, who is this author? Are they reliable? Right? Are they of sound knowledge? Number one. Number two, are they a person of uprightness? That's also important. Because the two conditions of transmission are what? الضبط والعدالة, correct? Soundness of what they're transmitting, but also uprightness yourself. Because someone could have learned, but now they're corrupt. Right? Right? So just having received the knowledge, right? So we need to be careful and we check. But also, just because it's interesting does not mean that you need to read it. Because you say, oh, you see an interesting book, say, you know what? The right question to ask, I haven't read something about Islam for a while. Or you go to an audiobook website. You say, oh, there's some books about Islam. It's okay. What you take from it is, I should listen to something about Islam. I have long commutes. But then find out what do I need? What will benefit me? Be avid for what benefits you, right? That's not necessarily what it is. Right? So you apply that criteria as a person seeking knowledge, right? And that should shield you. And when you're not sure, consult. Because they say a principle of reason before religion, they say, is al-aslu taqdeemul awla. The basis is that you prioritize what is more important. It's an old principle. If you put it in idiomatic, you say first things first, you say you're listening to Stephen Covey. No, you're not. It's almost one of the 7 habits that Stephen Covey, and they're good, sensible habits. But there are so many hadiths of the Prophet, and it's one of the classical principles, right? Because it's a rational principle. It's not a religious principle. Or it's a principle of reason and revelation. Taqdeemul awla. If you can read a book, which book should you read on a topic? Read the best one. Right? How do you find out it's the best one? Because if you need to read about a topic, do you know about it? No. If you're the expert, you'd write the book on it. Are there people of expertise to find out? If you're going to read your first book of Sirah, make it the most beneficial given your circumstances. How would you know? Ask. Right? Ask. And just being smart and common sense. So that's, those are some of the considerations with respect to avoiding fitna. But if you're in a situation where you want to say something about the religion, then focus on guidance, which is beneficial knowledge. Either knowledge that you've gained, there's no harm in spreading it, in a manner of benefit. So do not be a mere preacher. Don't just be a storyteller. Doesn't matter. Don't get involved in controversies. Don't be a commentator. Don't criticize anyone. Also, do not speak about things that you are not qualified to speak about. And just because you know some things doesn't mean you can talk about everything. Also, do not speak about things in ways that would be of harm, directly or indirectly. Because there are many subtle things. It has come in the Christian tradition, and the Muslims quoted this, that, placing knowledge in its wrong place is like putting precious, like precious stones on the neck of a pig, or similar. It's foolish, right? Had no one to give, the precious necklace to, don't buy it. You got it. Give it to someone worth giving it to, and so on. And in this, the governing principle is من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت. Whoever believes in the last day, in Allah and the last day, said our beloved Prophet ﷺ, let them say the good or remain silent. And what is saying the good? Saying the good is that which is likely to be of benefit, all things considered, in a manner leading to the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So it's much safer to talk about worldly things than to talk about religious things. Now, if you do it, make it beneficial. Right? And if you're upset, don't speak. They're really mad. How come these people did this, that, whatever? Don't say anything. Don't say anything. Because anger is like being drunk. There's an Indian comedian who almost got jailed because non-Muslim. He was drunk and he wrote comments against the Prime Minister. I don't know what he said. I just saw that this much of the thing. I said, it doesn't matter. But if you can read fast, you notice the headlines are written very intelligently because they tell you headline and the 2-line summary tells you a lot. Right? Drunken Indian comedian like insults Indian PM in a fit of Twitter rage. I didn't click on it. I don't know what happened. It stirs curiosity, but you keep away. Didn't read any article about it. But anger is like drunkenness, right? You'll say things that you'll regret later, so don't say it. So these are some of the principles, right? Keep away. If you can live your life, never comment. They don't initiate such commentary, but also don't comment. Attacking or defending. Do you really think that Sheikh so-and-so is in need of your defense? No. Right? Especially in online commentary. If you have someone you could tell them that, Sister Sajida, please, it's better not to get wrong. But you should make tawbah that why were you seeing the comments in the first place? Right? Don't. Because I'm going to say, well, I'm just seeing if any of my friends are involved. That's also getting involved in the commentary, right? So don't get involved, right? Don't get involved. Even if people try to provoke you. I've had many times when I do my best to, I don't recall ever getting involved directly. People like saying interesting things about me, right? If you just Google my news, find some really cool titles, well, who cares? Right? Because there's one opinion, one whose opinion matters, right? One whose knowledge of you matters, right? And other things, it really doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. So doesn't matter, right? So don't also comment. Someone posts silly comments on your stuff, just delete it. I asked elders in the family. There's a certain member of our wider family. I blocked him. Before doing so, I talked to my father, talked to a number of other elders and say, Faraz beta, please do it. We'll work on him. One of my uncles said, Faraz beta, when I think things are ready, I'll tell you. Okay. And he's usually not that experienced. I said, okay. Why? Every time I'd post it, started just saying all kinds of weird things. I'd politely just delete comment. Won't stop. And then what would happen? Once my brother got upset at this person. And so I gave him, I said, don't retract. So he went, he did, and it causes incidental trouble. Right? And eventually the person themselves will appreciate it. That you never fought me. I have someone in my family who's going through an atheist phase. I met him. I didn't know what his views were. Assumed the best. Met him overseas. And all the lunch, after all the pleasantries were related, all trying to pick a fight with me about atheism. I kept changing the topic. Why? One, because it won't benefit. Because if someone says absurd things, you fight back, what's going to happen? They'll become more entrenched and it'll hurt the relationship. Kept trying. I kept changing the topic. One of the safest things, most human beings could talk to them about the food, the weather, sports, family, anything else. Talk about their culture. Yeah, I like this style on you. Whatever. Talk about anything else. Change the topic. Within a few days, got an email. Faraz bhai, I really appreciate that. It was in poor taste that I was trying to argue with you. I appreciate it. This and that. Thank you very much. A little, couple of years passed, asking me questions about different other things. But still, you have to know, sometimes you have to respond with the least viable response. I just said, ask me what translation of the Quran is good. I just responded in one word. This one. Didn't even send a link. Normally I'd send a personal link. I don't know. Why? Because people take time. Right? People take. And they appreciate. So you have to be really careful. In family. Family is discussing something. Walk away. Walk away. There's one side of the family when uncles and aunties were younger and more able to gather, end up regularly at family gatherings. Alhamdulillah, never get involved in family arguments related to religious matter. Moonsiding, people start talking about religion, I'd go to the washroom. What if the uncle says, Faraz beta, you like evasive action? I said, no uncle, uncle, I drink a lot of water, so I need to use the washroom. Which is true. I try to drink a lot of water, but not because of this. Washroom's a safe space in family gatherings because it's halal to be in the washroom. A washroom is not a toilet. It's not a bad place to be unnecessarily. You're in the toilet, nothing else, just check the news. Catch up on some messages. Go in. Change the topic. Do whatever else, but do not get involved in fitna. If you can, just change the topic entirely. They like Pakistani cricket or whatever cricket. Even if you couldn't care less, I heard who's playing Pakistan. Their uncles would be so happy. Don't open politics. I'll open different types of fitna. Right? Praise the food. Whatever else, do not get involved in religious argument. Because why? The community has differences over moon sighting. Will your arguing about it with family change what the masajid are doing? No. Commentary doesn't change a thing. Right? You want the community to be united, you won't unite by fighting. That's like the most bizarre line of reasoning. How are you going to promote unity in the masajid? By bickering about them. Right? Won't happen. Imam Shafi'i said, and it's based on something that Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, that if everyone who doesn't really know kept quiet, most difference of opinion would stop. Most argument would cease. Just keep quiet. So that's how we approach it. Just avoid change the topic. And you don't have to, or if they insist, you don't have to agree. Sometimes people just say, "Tell me." Said, "I have no opinion on this." Said, or just be frank. I do not wish to talk about this. We have a policy at Seekers Guidance. We don't answer sectarian questions. Someone insists, they say, I have a shortcut. Z sect. Said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I pray you're well. We do not comment on sectarian issues or topics. Jazakumullah khair wa assalamu alaikum. Full shortcut. Standard answer. Someone gets mad at you, who cares? If they tag you, untag yourself. There's one sheikh in the UK kept tagging me in controversial things. I just kept removing the tag. I wanted to mute the conversation, but I didn't want other people who know me to get involved in the conversation. Then I went to a TV show in the UK. Sheikh happened to be, we knew each other. That's what the harm of this kind of argumentation is. We knew each other. I'd visited him in Damascus. He'd visit me in Jordan. Formerly, several times we'd met for dinner in the UK. But now, picking an argument, assuming that by some weird neural network of associations, I must disagree with him. So I said, here comes the evasive one. Said, you keep running away from me. He said, Assalamu alaikum, how are you? Do you have a TV show? He said, no, I'm passing by. I said, same with me. May Allah bless you. He says, can you explain why you're... I said, I'm afraid I have an appointment. I was there because I had an appointment. It's true. He said, may Allah bless you, etc. And go. I evaded him there too. So what? If he thinks I'm evasive, okay, big deal. Doesn't change my life. So there's no reason to get involved in argument, but also, I wanted to give this background because it's very important on avoiding fitna. Next class, we're going to actually look at the text at the duty of the one, particularly of the one spreading the religion in avoiding fitna. Right? Because and it's an amazing admonition on those who speak about religion, who preach or give religious rulings, and other categories of people. But this is a very important topic because, not just on social media, but also within family, etc. Don't. And I'll close with one of the advices given by one of my teachers. And I was going to Pakistan. I have a large family there, and people tend to have rather opinionated, to say the least. And I'm kind of the, like the Maulvi type in the family, etc. I was expecting a lot of questions. And this is the first time they'll be seeing my wife, and that could have had its... So I asked one of my teachers, so how do I approach this when they ask me questions about religion? He said, very simple. He said, do not say a word about religion. I said, what if they open topics? I said, even if they open topics, remain silent, or appear mildly or utterly indifferent. Change the topic. Ask them what they believe. I said, most people quite enjoy the sound of their own voices. So ask them. I said, what do you believe? And most of them will be so shocked they won't have anything to say. So then you can change the topic. So what would I talk to say then? And he mentioned these things. Doesn't matter. He said that there's a lot of permissible things to talk about. You can avoid the harm even by talking about something that's otherwise useless. Or let them talk about it. Like sport, this, that, whatever. Talk about something that they're interested in. Or ask them questions. Let them speak. Keeps you quiet, but safe topics. Heard that, mashallah, you do amazing barbecues. Where do you learn about it? Ask them questions. I heard that, but stay away from it, right? You have family members. Many families have a part of the family that may have different religious views. They've been like that for several centuries. Do you think that you are the super anti whatever persuasion they have, you're going to be able to convince them all by fighting with them, especially in front of other family members? No, that's not how da'wah happens. That's not how change happens. You have people who are far from religion. There's a way to bring them back to religious practice, or they have views that are not sound. You don't change their views by attacking them. If you attack, people defend. That's the basic principle of. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us clarity and to keep us from matters of religious confusion and dispute and argument. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Any questions before we close today?
Someone was asking, how do we handle feeling the need to catch up on many years of ignorance and thus wanting to learn Islamic sciences every day with courses from a few different institutes?
No, so if one feels that one has fallen behind in learning, etc., you want to learn actively, make a plan, consult about it. But it's better in general in life to do less but better. It's a basic, simple principle about anything. I used to travel a lot around the world, go to a lot of MSAs and so on. Always people ask for advice about their activism because, growing up, we used to be quite active. Actually, Ustad Umar and myself, we compiled the first guide for how to start and run an MSA for MSA National. That's how I got to know my wife. And several people have gotten in trouble for the book, except the two people who are the editors, including a friend of mine who had to take people to court for some of the content of the book. But the people who put it together, nobody's ever raised any objections to that. Anyways, so if you want, it's better, the basis, and this applies to most things. If you're an activist, don't try to do every type of activism, do something, do one thing, do it really well. And it'll be of benefit. It'll bear fruit for others, and you'll find benefit, you'll be able to sustain it. Right? That's just in general in life. When it comes to religious knowledge, the asl is, what I learned from my teachers, I heard it first from Sheikh Nuh Keller, also heard it from Sheikh, very similar advice from Sheikh Muhammad Qaylish, Hafizahullah, and others. And I heard almost exactly the same concept from Sheikh Salik bin Siddina, the Mauritanian scholar, who's between the Bay Area and Mauritania. These days he's in the city of the Prophet ﷺ. At least from what I can tell from his social media, unless he's posting past videos, is that do one thing and do it well. Right? That's the basis. Do one thing, do it well. What does it mean to do something well? Is prepare for the class. Right? Because most classes, there's a text, whatever, prepare for the class. Listen attentively. Ask your questions. And then review, so you retain what you learn. These are the three things that if you do, you'll benefit from what you study. Even if it takes you years to cover one subject. Right? Prepare before the class, be attentive in the class, ask your questions either in the class or after. And number three, review, so you retain what you study. If you can do that properly, then add a second class. But do the above. Right? Now, there are some places where they have standards of mastery. Right? So Sheikh Salik, for example, said that in general, the student knowledge, he's not even talking about the regular person, that it's difficult for them to master one text. But they should only study a second text if they can master the first text and master the second. So now, two, you might be able to do it. But he says, لكن ثلاثة لا يمكن عادة. He says the three, you cannot normally do it. That's just studying three things at a time for a full-time student knowledge. But they have a very high standard of mastery. Means anything you study, like they're from a place where in the desert you would not actually have a copy of the book. You'd write down what you have on a lawh, and you memorize the text, and you remember the commentary. Now, we have books and stuff that's easier, but that's retention. Knowledge is what remains. And if you know it, you can act upon it. How can you act on the knowledge if you don't know it anymore? Right? So that's the thing. The urge is really good. So make a plan. But the Prophet ﷺ said, عَلَيْكُمْ مِنَ الْعَمَلِ مَا تُطِيقُونَ. Take from action, that includes knowledge, what you can sustain. For it is not Allah who tires, but it is you who tire. You have to think long term. The Sayyidina Aisha said, كَانَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهِ وسلم إِذَا عَمِلَ عَمَلًا أَثْبَتَهُ. The Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم, if he did anything, he would firmly root it. Meaning he would make it like you plant a tree. Right? He would plant it deeply, nurture it, cultivate it. The key of it is consistent attention, right? Long term. That's how it bears fruit. Go ahead.
How do we ensure we are not looking past important items by thinking we are avoiding what doesn't concern us?
By knowing what does concern you, right? The way you know that you're not overlooking important things is to know what you need to know and find out about that. Right? Why some member of the cabinet is mad at another member of cabinet does not affect your life. Number two, does not affect your duty as a citizen. Politics. So-and-so left because he was offended by what she said, and you know what actually happened. This person's spouse ran into this person's spouse. They knocked into each other. One spilled red wine. The other made a crack at. Yeah, it may be entertaining, but anytime real human beings are involved, there's harm. You want entertainment? Watch a halal comedy. Read something funny. Right? Listen to an audiobook of Winnie the Pooh. It's still funny for adults. Or whatever. Do anything wholesome and funny. It's better than real human beings, because that's gossip, slander, etc. You know, and a lot of news is based. If you ask everybody who's been following recent conflicts, why is this taking place? They don't know. They can tell you how many people have died. Like, what can you do about how many people died? When conflicts happen, one country invades another. Most people say, "Ahlan wa sahlan, welcome to my country." No. Someone comes in with tanks and they're shooting them at. So people are going to die. Keeping score won't change it. Right? That's just idle curiosity. You're concerned, make dua. You want to follow what's going on. The critical question about news is not what, it's why. People distract you from the what, by the what from the why. The intelligent person knows why things are happening. And you don't need to know the news. This is what's going to happen. Okay. But find reliable sources and that's it. And people, ultimately, the people providing the news are selling you something. Anything that'll get your attention, they'll sell it. And if they're not driven by values, if they could substitute the 9 o'clock news with pornography, they'd do it. But people want an eclectic mix of things, and you can get the other thing 24/7 anyways. So they'll do it. Right? Because they're not driven by values. Right? And news is just a type of media entertainment. But not just like in literature you have fact, you have fiction and non-fiction. The purpose of it is to sell. Don't be a consumer. Be a believer of intelligence. What do you pick? Not what they're trying to sell you. Pick purposefully. Pick what you need and what will benefit you. That's it. The human being is not a consuming animal. The human being is defined classically as the rational animal. Sharaful mar'i aqluhu wa dinuh. The honor of a person is their intellect and their religion. So cultivate your intellect. Cultivate your religion and you'll be safe. By other things, doesn't matter who's selling it, worldly or religious. Actually, the religious salesmen are much more dangerous, because someone sold you, a useless watch. Okay, go sell it on Kijiji. You'll lose a little value. I foolishly ended up buying a monitor so big I can't read the corners of the monitor comfortably. Doesn't hurt me in the akhirah. I paid for it. I figured out another use for it. It's too big. Okay, it doesn't hurt me in my deen. Even then it ends up being of use. But harm in the religion sticks. Go ahead.
What about issues that involve morality, truth, etc.? Should we also stay silent?
Issues that involve morality or truth. Thing is, you are not God's judge on earth, nor are you, like, what are you? Are you the qadi? If you're the qadi, then take care of the cases coming to you, right? Are you the judge? Are you the police? Someone's committed a crime, right? We have courts, we have police, right? But you're not here. The Prophet ﷺ told, "Lasta alayhim bimusaytir." You are not there to control them. You're not there. Even on moral, there's a hadith so shocking. Some of the hadith scholars said, this is strange. But it's not. It's a well-established hadith in the works of Sunan. The beloved Messenger of Allah ﷺ was asked by a man, "Ya Rasulullah, inna imra'ati la taruddu yada lamis." That, O Messenger of Allah, my wife does not turn away seeking hands. And it doesn't mean seeking, it's not just seeking to physically touch, it means they have illicit relations with her. She doesn't stop them. The Prophet ﷺ inquired that, did he wish to divorce her? The man indicated no. Right? He said, do you love her? The man indicated yes. So then enjoy her company. He didn't say, spy on her, lock her down. What can you do? Like, do what you can. But if you can't do something, then make a conscious choice. Life does not work in simple way. All kinds of things happen. Now, can you be part of improving things? Yes. Okay, you're worried, let's say that there are scholars speaking without knowledge. So instead of attacking everyone who's speaking without knowledge, because they're doing it, people were doing that during the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba. Like we mentioned, Sayyidina Ali kicked out the preachers. But he didn't kill them. They didn't execute them. What are you going to do? Right? So rather, you see, okay, will saying this be of benefit? Warning against so-and-so. And usually it's peace. The person who initiated the thing got taken over by emotion or partisanship or other reasons. And tone tells it. Because someone was seeking the truth. Yeah. If you were to ask the question on most things, did they talk to them privately first? No. Did they raise it to someone more senior or learned to address it? No. Is the tone being followed one of principle? No. To the extent of the need? No. Imam al-Ghazali talks about the harms of debate. That has to do with all these controversies. Even, is it true? Right? Is it true? Right? You're not the morality police. Worst case scenario, let's say that so-and-so went and committed a grave sin. Have you never committed a grave sin? Right? Do we go on the assumption that religious scholars or leaders are sinless? No. Right? Now there's a difference between someone who makes a mistake or a fault and an error and someone who's predator or harmful. Now, as a growing community, we have a need to have community institutions of accountability. Now, if you want to be part of that, then build, don't destroy. Right? Build, don't destroy. There's no benefit in, because not only the people involved, other people, this serves as an excuse for those considering religion to keep away, even within our community. I've heard that the masajid are full of predators and abusers. No, they're not. They're not. You go to 100 masajid, how many, if like on Friday, if in the Greater Toronto area, let's say 50,000 men and women go to the masjid, how many of them are likely to have a harmful personal experience? Okay, there's some colorful out there khutbahs, whatever, that's a separate matter. But even if the khutbah was bad, they always give terrible khutbahs at my local mosque. Shame on you. Go somewhere else, right? Go somewhere else. Okay? If you have time to comment on Twitter, there are so many places where you could go and give the khutbah. And that's what the believer does. Rather than commenting on Twitter will not change the quality of the khutbah. Rather, what do? Go to the masjid, right? Give them advice. But give them advice wisely. You come as a stranger, they've never seen you before, you've never helped out. Are they likely to listen to you? The basis people want things to be the way. We've got a Jummah rotation. People don't choose based on who's the best person available. They'll choose what's the easiest thing. Right? So you make positive suggestions. Right? Get involved. Be part of the process. That's what the believer does. The believer builds, they don't break. Aslihu. Right? Rectify. There's a famous female scholar who converted decades ago. At her university, there were terrible khutbahs because the people giving khutbahs had poor English. They weren't particularly learned. So she tried to advise them, couldn't listen. So she started writing the khutbahs for them to deliver. That's what the believer does. Nasiha is seeking good with respect to others. Someone who gives a bad khutbah, right? What do you do? I actually went to a community, I'm not making this up at all. This community spent millions on the masjid, over $1 million on the dome alone, but they hired a sheikh from overseas who couldn't even comfortably read English. So one of the Arab sisters tried to help him with khutbahs. He couldn't even read. So she was writing out khutbahs for him to read, but he couldn't read the English because words he could not pronounce. So I actually saw the pic because I was curious. I went to talk to him afterwards because he was pronouncing the English with i'rab sometimes. It's suspicious, like with Arabic grammatical declension. And the pauses, he's speaking English. This is a beautiful. Like, what's going on? So I was curious. I don't know what he talked about because I got lost in how he was talking about it. So I went and started talking to him. So this Arab sister was writing out good khutbahs in English for him in Arabic. That's painstaking. 20-minute khutbah written out in English, written in Arabic, so he could read it out. He didn't know. He said she's a religious sister. So he trusted her. Okay? That's being part of benefit. Is there any reward in saying our khatib is useless? And she convinced the masjid to invest in him taking an English program. But they'd had many bad experiences. They preferred having a reliable person saying things people didn't understand than people coming and saying random harmful things. That's up to the masjid. Vote with your feet. Go somewhere else where they give better khutbahs. But don't stir fitna. Right? And most of what people say is unverified, untrue. Right? If someone has a complaint, they want to raise it with you, say, look, raise it to people who can deal with it. Right? Raise it to people who can deal with it. Now, if you want to be part of the process of improving things, there's many ways to do that. Right? Now, that doesn't mean ignoring a person. A person who's mazloom comes to you, you assist the one wronged. But the sunnah of dealing with the wronged is we assist both the wrongdoer, both the one wronged and the wrongdoer. As the Prophet ﷺ told us. Unsur akhaka zaliman aw mazluman. Assist your brother, whether the wrongdoer or the one wronged. And this used to be from the pre-Islamic sayings. That the Arabs, being tribal people, each person would assist their tribe or their clan or their brother over other members of the family. So the Sahaba were shocked. Because it didn't sound like an Islamic value. They said, Ya Rasulullah, we understand how we assist our brother if they're the one wronged. But how do you assist them when they're the wrongdoer? It says, بَأَن تَكُفَّهُ عَنْ ظُلْمِهِ, by stopping them from their wrong. But you view them as your brother. You want good for them too. And that's why there's a very powerful notion of what's called restorative justice. We want justice, but with mercy. What is justice with mercy? That we want justice for the wrongdoer in a way that gives them healing. Because there's a way of giving justice to the one wronged that harms the one wronged. They always feel that they're wronged, etc. There's no healing in that, even for the one wronged. And the wrongdoer Okay, you stop them here, they go do the same wrong somewhere else. There's processes of and you can read up about restorative justice. It's the closest modern conceptualization of justice to the teachings of our Prophet ﷺ. فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. So rectify between your two brethren, which is just to rectify the relationship, also to rectify the matter of the rights. You also assist the wrongdoer. And that's not an easy process, but that's the sunnah. It's like one of my teachers. He had one of his students was very sharp in Islamic theology, but he'd always get into arguments and fights and get mad. So what do you do? So he felt he wanted a little bit of self-pity, because when he came to the country I was living in, he was like, I came here to learn theology and this, that, but the sheikh told me I shouldn't do that. And he's like, I discovered why the sheikh said that, because once I wrote something online, he didn't even start shouting at me on the street. I realized, oh, mashallah, I convinced him to calm down, and I don't like arguing, because like if I were argue, I'd go guns blazing. It's not good. Instead, the sheikh, what did he do? Realized this person to be harmful here, directed him to something else. Said, for you, it'd be much better if you dedicate yourself to authoring this in this particular way. So you channeled that talent, that ability, that drive in another way, and that's wisdom. Right? That's wisdom. Right? Because everybody has a worth, right? And that's part of hikmah, right? We'll stop there. بإذن الله تعالى. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما والحمد لله رب العالمين.